The morning started like any other on New Harmony Colony, Commander. Thale walked through the crystal gardens where his people had spent decades growing beautiful formations that sang in the wind. The Valians were peaceful beings, their bodies, made of living crystal, that reflected light in amazing patterns. They had never needed weapons or armies, because they had never met anyone who wanted to hurt them. That changed when the sensors started screaming. Thale rushed to the command center, where his assistant Kira was staring at the display with wide, frightened eyes. Commander, we have massive ships approaching, at least 20 of them. They're huge. The ships belonged to the Mordock Empire, a species known across the galaxy for taking what they wanted. They had thick gray skin like armor and eyes that burned red with anger. They conquered worlds not because they needed them, but because they enjoyed the fear it brought. Thale's hands shook as he activated the emergency transmitter. His crystalline fingers had never felt so fragile. This is New Harmony Colony calling anyone who can hear us. The Mordock Empire is coming. With warships, we are just scientists and artists. We have no weapons, we have no soldiers. Please, if anyone out there has a heart, help us. The message shot out into space at the speed of light, carrying the desperate plea of an entire world. Away on Primian, the capital world of the Galactic Council, politicians in fancy robes received the message. Council member Vess, a tall being with tentacles instead of arms, stood up immediately. We must send ships now. These people will die, but the council had rules. Everything needed votes and committees and paperwork. Council member Drex, who looked like a walking tree, shook his branches slowly. The proper forms must be filed. We need 3 full cycles to approve military action. 3 cycles, Vess shouted. They'll be dead in 18 hours. The other council members muttered about protocols and procedures, while people prepared to die. The same message traveled through old relay stations that had been forgotten for centuries. One of these stations sat at the edge of a sector marked with warning signs. The Galactic Council had put up barriers around this area long ago, with messages that said danger, primitive, Deathworld species do not contact on Earth. Lieutenant Tyler Brooks was drinking coffee during his night shift at Terran Deep Space Command. The facility was hidden inside a mountain in Colorado, monitoring space for any signs of alien life. Earth had only recently developed the technology to listen to alien communications, but they hadn't made contact yet. Tiller's computer started beeping with an urgent sound he'd never heard before. Strange symbols filled his screen, and then the translation program kicked in. Alien voices, speaking in musical tones that sounded like wind chimes, filled the room. Admiral Reed, you need to get down here right now, Tyler called into his radio. Admiral Nathan Reed arrived 5 minutes later, still putting on his uniform. He was a tough man who had fought in Earth's last war and had scars to prove it. What do you have, Tyler? Sir, we just received what appears to be a distress call from an alien species. They're under attack by something called the Mordock Empire. The attackers will reach them in about 17 hours. Reed listened to the translated message 3 times. The fear in the alien voices was clear, even through the computer translation. These weren't soldiers calling for backup. These were ordinary people, about to be destroyed by something evil. How far away are they? Reed asked. 14 jumps through hyperspace. Sir, our fastest ships could make it in 16 hours, if they pushed their engines past the red line. Reed was quiet for a long moment, thinking about first contact protocols and government approval. Then he thought about the fear in those alien voices, and made his choice. Wake up the 7th Fleet, tell them we're going to war. Admiral Nathan Reed stood in the command center of the TCS Determination, Earth's most powerful warship. The massive display screen showed a 3-dimensional map of space with red dots marking the alien colony and the approaching enemy fleet. Around him, his most trusted officers waited for orders that would change human history forever. Captain Diana Foster, a woman who had commanded destroyers in Earth's asteroid belt conflicts, studied the data with worried eyes. Sir, we're looking at 14 hyperspace jumps through some of the most dangerous space lanes known to our navigators. Some of those routes go through unstable star systems. Commander Blake Torres, the fleet's intelligence officer, Pulled up more information on his tablet. The aliens say they have 18 hours before the Mordock fleet reaches their colony. Our best estimates show we can make it in 16 hours if we push our ships harder than they've ever been pushed before. Reed looked at the faces around him. These were men and women who had fought pirates in the Outer Rim, defended Earth's colonies from asteroid impacts, and kept humanity safe in the cold darkness of space. But they had never faced alien enemies before. Colonel Rita Hayes, commander of the fleet's marine forces, stepped forward. She was a tough woman who had grown up in the mining colonies of Mars, where life was hard and people learned to fight or die. Admiral, we don't know anything about these aliens. Are they telling us the truth? Could this be a trap? Reed played the alien message again. The crystalline voices filled the room, speaking in musical tones that their computers barely understood, but the fear was real. Anyone could hear it. Listen to that. Reed said quietly, those aren't soldiers trying to trick us. Those are families with children, scientists, artists, people who build things instead of destroying them, and someone wants to kill them all. Captain Foster shifted uncomfortably. Sir, Earth Command hasn't given us permission. For this mission we could be starting a war with species we don't understand. What if the Mordock Empire decides to attack Earth after we interfere? Then we'll fight them here too, Reed answered, without hesitation. But right now, innocent people are going to die if we do nothing. Commander, Torres brought up tactical displays of Earth's 7th Fleet. 12 ships total, 3 heavy cruisers, 4 destroyers, 3 frigates, and 2 support vessels. Not a massive force, but every ship was built tough and crewed by humans who had grown up fighting for survival in space. Sir, even if we authorize this mission, there's another problem. Torres continued to reach them in time. We'll have to push our fusion drives past their safety limits. We'll be running our ships at 110% power for over 15 hours straight. The engines weren't designed for that kind of stress. Reed walked over to the large window that looked out at Earth's orbital shipyards. He could see the 12 ships of the 7th Fleet floating in space, their crews already preparing for departure, even though no official orders had been given yet. Each ship represented years of human engineering and the lives of brave men and women who had volunteered to protect humanity. Commander Hayes, how long to get our Marines ready for combat? Reed asked. They're ready now, sir. Have been since the moment we received that alien message. Captain Foster tried one more time. Admiral, we're talking about first contact with alien species. This should involve diplomats and scientists, not warships and Marines. Reed turned back to his officers with steel in his eyes. Diana, when someone is screaming for help, you don't send a diplomat, you send whoever can fight. He activated the fleet-wide communication system. All ships. This is Admiral Reed. We have a mission within minutes. Alarms were sounding throughout the orbital shipyards. Crews that had been on shore leave rushed back to their ships. Engineers began pushing fusion reactors to maximum power. Weapons officers loaded railguns with tungsten rounds and checked targeting. Systems Captain Ryan Mitchell of the destroyer Vigilant received his orders and immediately began plotting jump coordinates. Lieutenant Zoe Palmer in engineering started calculating fuel consumption for a journey that would push their ship beyond its design limits. The Determination was the first to launch, its massive engines creating a blue glow that could be seen from Earth's surface one by one. The other ships followed, forming up an attack formation as they prepared for their first jump into hyperspace. Reed stood on his bridge, watching Earth fall away behind them. In 16 hours, humanity would either save an alien species or die trying. Either way, they would face the unknown, as they always had, together and fighting. Space around the Harmony Ridge system erupted with flashes of light. As 12 human warships dropped out of hyperspace, the journey had pushed their engines to the breaking point, with 3 ships reporting critical system failures, but they had made it with just 2 hours to spare. Nathan Reed stood on the bridge of the Determination, watching his tactical display as massive alien ships came into view. The Mordock dreadnoughts were enormous, each one 3 times larger than his biggest cruiser. Their hulls were dark metal covered in spikes, and weapon ports that glowed with deadly energy. My God, whispered Lieutenant Palmer from the sensor station. Admiral, I'm reading 24 Mordak warships. They're massive. Our entire fleet could fit inside one of their largest vessels on the planet below. Commander Thale pressed his crystalline face against the observation window of his colony's command center. His people had given up hope hours ago, preparing for death as the enemy fleet approached, but now, strange new ships had appeared, positioning themselves directly between the Mordics and the colony. Who are they? Asked his assistant Kira, her crystal body flickering with nervous light patterns. I don't know, Thale replied, but they're trying to protect us, Admiral. Reed opened communication channels to both the alien colony and the Mordock fleet. He had never spoken to an alien before, but he kept his voice steady and strong. This is Admiral Nathan Reed of the Terran fleet, representing the planet Earth Mordock vessels. You are attacking innocent civilians. Stand down immediately and withdraw from this system. The response came in a voice that sounded like grinding metal. War leader Grex of the Mordock Empire appeared on the screen, a massive creature with gray skin like armor plating, burning red eyes, and teeth designed for tearing flesh behind him. Reed could see other Mordock warriors, all built like living weapons. Terran fleet. Grex laughed, a sound that made Reed's crew shiver. We have never heard of your pathetic species. These crystal creatures belong to the Empire now, and so do you. Surrender your ships or be destroyed with them. Captain Diana Foster, standing beside Reed, studied the enemy fleet on her display. Sir, they outgun us 5-1. Their energy weapons are more advanced than anything we've seen. Tactical recommends we withdraw and call for reinforcements. Reed looked at the planet below where millions of innocent beings waited to die. The crystalline aliens had done nothing wrong except ask for help. Their entire civilization was built around creating beautiful art and studying the stars. They had never hurt anyone. Commander Torres, open a channel to the colony, Reed ordered. Commander. Thale's face appeared on screen, his crystal features reflecting the light and patterns of hope and fear. Unknown ships. I am Commander Thale of New Harmony Colony. We didn't expect anyone to come. The Galactic Council said help was impossible. We heard your call for help. Reed said simply, we're humans from Earth. We don't know much about galactic politics, but we know right from wrong. Stay in your shelters. Commander will handle. This war leader Grex's laughter filled the communication channel again. Foolish Deathworlders. Your tiny ships are toys compared to the might of the Empire. Watch as we burn your fleet, and then destroy the crystal vermin you're trying to protect. Reed's expression grew cold. His grandfather had fought against bullies on Earth, and his father had defended the Mars colonies from pirates. Now it was his turn to stand against evil. Even if the enemy came from the stars, you were given a chance to leave peacefully, Reed said calmly. He switched to the fleet frequency. All ships. This is Admiral Reed. The enemy has chosen war weapons are free. Show them what humans do to bullies. The Mordock fleet opened fire first, sending streams of superheated plasma across space. The energy beams struck the human ships like hammers of light, testing armor that had been forged in Earth's toughest foundries. Captain Ryan Mitchell aboard the destroyer, Vigilant, watched his ship's armor absorb hit after hit. Damage control. Report. Outer hull heating up, but holding strong, sir. These Mordock weapons pack a punch, but our armor can take it. Admiral Reed smiled grimly as he watched his ships endure the enemy barrage. The Mordics had powerful energy weapons, but they had never faced ships built by a species that grew up fighting in the vacuum of space, where one mistake meant death. All ships returned fire. Let them taste human steel. The human fleet responded with weapons the Mordex had never seen before. Magnetic railguns that fired solid metal projectiles at incredible speeds. The tungsten rounds, accelerated to a fraction of light speed, punched through Mordock energy shields like they weren't. There, the first Mordock ship to be hit simply exploded as a railgun round tore through its hull from front to back. War leader Grex stared in shock as his superior technology failed against primitive kinetic weapons. The real battle was just beginning. What happened next would be talked about in military academies across the galaxy for centuries to come. The Mordok Empire had conquered 47 star systems. Using overwhelming force and superior technology, they had never met an enemy that could match their firepower or tactical skill. They were about to learn that humans didn't fight fair. They fought to win. Captain Ryan Mitchell commanded the destroyer, Vigilant, a ship that had been built in Earth's toughest shipyards, where engineers understood that space didn't forgive mistakes. As Mordok plasma beams lit up the darkness around him, Mitchell threw his ship into a spinning dive that would have torn apart most alien vessels. Pull 7Gs, starboard, he shouted to his helmsman, Lieutenant Kane Rodriguez. Target their weapon clusters, not their main hull. Rodriguez, whose great-grandfather had been a fighter pilot on Earth, smiled as crushing forces pressed him deep into his seat. Most species in the galaxy couldn't handle more than 2Gs of acceleration without losing consciousness. Humans regularly trained at 8Gs and could survive much more in combat situations. The Vigilant twisted through space like a deadly snake, its railguns picking off Mordok weapon systems. One by one, each shot was perfectly aimed, disabling enemy guns instead of trying to destroy entire ships. It was surgical warfare that the Mordoks had never experienced. Meanwhile, Commander Blake Torres aboard the heavy cruiser Retribution was pulling a maneuver that defied everything the Mordoks knew about space combat. Instead of engaging the enemy directly, he used the system's moon as a gravitational anchor, swinging his massive ship around in a slingshot trajectory that brought him up behind the Mordok formation. Engineering. I need every ounce of power we can get, Torres called to his chief engineer, Lieutenant Amy Walsh. We're going to come out of this slingshot at nearly 40% light speed. Sir, the hull wasn't designed for this kind of stress, Walsh replied, watching her displays flash red warnings. The hull will hold, Torres said with confidence. Earth engineering doesn't break easy, the Retribution screamed around the moon's gravity well and emerged like a comet behind the Mordok fleet. Torres opened fire with all weapons, his railguns punching holes through 3 enemy ships before they could even turn to face him. War leader Grex watched from his command ship as these impossible humans tore his fleet apart using tactics he couldn't understand. His ships were bigger and more advanced, but the humans moved like they were born in the vacuum of space. How are they surviving those maneuvers? He roared at his tactical officer. No species can handle that much gravitational force. What Grex didn't understand was that humans had spent thousands of years fighting each other on a world where survival meant adapting to extreme conditions. They had then spent centuries more learning to fight in the deadly environment of space, where asteroids moved at killer speeds and solar radiation could fry electronics in seconds. Colonel Rita Hayes led the human fighter squadrons in the most dangerous part of the battle as the larger ships fought. Debris from destroyed Mordok vessels created a deadly obstacle course of spinning metal and plasma clouds. Most pilots would have retreated to safe distance, but Hayes led her fighters straight into the Chaos Alpha Squadron. Follow me through the debris field, she called over the radio. We're going to hit their command ship from underneath. Her fighter, barely larger than an old Earth jet, twisted between chunks of metal that weighed thousands of tons behind her. 20 more human pilots followed, each one making split-second decisions that kept them alive while Mordok defensive. Fighters exploded around them. Lieutenant Jordan Parker, flying wing position beside Hayes, laughed as he dodged a piece of debris the size of a building. Colonel, this reminds me of racing through the asteroid belt back home. Except the asteroids weren't shooting back, Hayes replied, launching missiles at the Mordok command ship's shield generators. The human attack was devastating because it came from an angle the Mordoks never expected. Their ships were designed to fight other vessels in straight battle lines, not deal with fighters attacking from multiple directions through debris fields that should have been impossible to navigate within 1 hour of battle. 12 human ships had destroyed or disabled 18 Mordok vessels. The remaining 6 Mordok ships were damaged, and their crews were in panic. Warriors who had conquered dozens of worlds now faced an enemy that seemed to enjoy fighting under conditions that would kill anyone else. Were leader Grex his command ship taking heavy damage from human railguns, finally understood the truth. These weren't just aliens. These were predators from a world so dangerous that it had forged them into perfect warriors. All ships, emergency jump, he screamed into his communicator. Retreat to Empire space immediately. The surviving Mordok ships opened hyperspace portals and fled into the darkness, leaving behind the wreckage of what had once been considered an unstoppable fleet. In the silence that followed, Admiral Reed looked at his tactical display with satisfaction. Not one human ship had been destroyed, and casualty reports showed only minor injuries among his crews. Humanity had just announced itself to the galaxy. The first human shuttle to land on an alien world touched down in the central plaza of New Harmony Colony with a gentle hiss of atmospheric processors. Commander Thale watched through the crystal windows of his command center as the strange craft settled onto the crystalline ground that his people had grown over decades of careful cultivation. Admiral Nathan Reed stepped out of the shuttle, followed by Captain Diana Foster and a small team of Marines. Reed removed his helmet and took his first breath of alien air, tasting the sweet, clean atmosphere that the crystalline beings had perfected through their symbiotic relationship with their living worlds. The Valians gathered around the landing site, their crystal bodies reflecting the light of their sun in countless rainbow patterns. They had never seen beings like these humans, creatures of flesh and bone who moved with predatory grace and whose eyes held the hard wisdom of survivors. Commander Thale approached slowly, his crystalline form chiming softly as he walked. When he spoke, his voice was like wind through crystal caves, musical and pure. Admiral Reed, I am Commander Thale of New Harmony Colony. We cannot find words to express our gratitude. Reed extended his hand in the ancient human gesture of greeting. Thale stared at it for a moment, then tentatively reached out with his own crystal appendage. When their hands touched, Thale was amazed by the warmth and strength of human flesh. Commander, we heard people calling for help, Reed said simply. That's what humans do. We help. Over the following days, something beautiful began to happen. Two completely different species started to learn about each other. The Valians showed the humans their crystal gardens, where living formations grew in harmony with their thoughts and emotions. They demonstrated their harmonic science, using sound frequencies to manipulate matter at the molecular level. Lieutenant Palmer, the young sensor officer who had first detected the alien distress call, stood in amazement as Valian scientists created intricate crystal sculptures simply by singing to raw minerals. This is incredible, she whispered to Captain Foster. They're artists and scientists at the same time. The humans, in return, shared their own knowledge. They showed the Valians how to build proper defensive systems and explained the harsh realities of a galaxy where not everyone was peaceful. Marine Colonel Rita Hayes worked with Valian engineers to design early warning systems that could detect hostile fleets long before they arrived. But the cultural exchange went deeper than technology. The Valians were fascinated by human durability and courage. They watched in wonder as human engineers worked in conditions that would have killed most species, repairing damage to the colony that the Mordok attack had caused. Commander Thale spent hours talking with Admiral Reed, learning about Earth and humanity's long history of conflict and survival. Your species fights so much, he observed, his crystal body flickering with confused light patterns. We fight because we have to. Reed explained our world taught us that life is hard and unfair, but that doesn't mean we give up. We fight to protect what matters. Meanwhile, news of the human intervention spread across the galaxy at light speed. On the Galactic Council chambers on Premion, emergency sessions were called to discuss this unknown species that had appeared from nowhere and defeated a Mordok fleet. Council member Vess, who had tried to help the Valians, was the first to speak. These humans did what we could not. While we debated and filled out forms, they acted. They saved an entire species. Council member Drex, the tree-like being who had insisted on following protocol, was less impressed. They violated every law of first contact. They brought weapons into a peaceful system. They attacked without provocation. The Mordics attacked without provocation. Vest shot back, the humans defended innocent lives. The debate raged for days. But one thing was clear. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy in a way no one could ignore. They hadn't sent diplomats or trade delegations. They had sent warships, crewed by warriors who were willing to die for strangers. Captain Foster established the first human embassy in the rebuilt community center of New Harmony Colony. It was a simple building, nothing fancy or impressive, but it represented something that had never existed before. A formal alliance between humans and aliens, based on mutual respect and shared values. 3 months later, Admiral Reed stood on the observation deck of the colony's main tower, watching human engineers work alongside Valian crystal shapers to rebuild what the Mordocs had destroyed. The two species moved together like they had been partners for centuries, humans providing strength and determination, while Valians offered wisdom and artistic vision. Admiral Commander Thale approached, his crystal body now incorporating small metal elements that the humans had given him as gifts. "We have received a message from the Galactic Council. They want to meet with your species," officially Red smiled, watching a human child play with young Valians in the plaza below. The kids had figured out friendship faster than any adult diplomat ever could tell them. "We'll be happy to talk," Reed said, "but we're not changing who we are or how we do things. We help people who need help. If they have a problem with that, they can file a complaint." Dale's crystal body chimed with what Reed had learned was Valian laughter. "I do not think the galaxy is ready for humans." "Admiral, the galaxy better get ready," Reed replied, watching the stars appear as the alien sun set. "Because we're here to stay." Humanity had found its place among the stars, not through conquest or diplomacy, but by doing what they had always done, standing up for those who couldn't stand up for themselves.